Welcome back to another episode of Better Than I Found It, the podcast all things college golf. You're listening to Mike McGraw, the men's golf coach at Baylor University. Today on Better Than I Found It, my guest will be Patty Coatney, who also happens to be my twin sister. Patty has been a very accomplished player. She won the Oklahoma State Junior Championship twice, State High School Championship once. She was a 4-year letter winner at Oklahoma State, twice being named All Big Eight. She was a 9-time Oklahoma State Women's Amateur Champion. She's the winningest in history of that championship. She's the only player to win that title in 4 decades. She played in the Women's U.S. Open. She actually coached college golf for 4 years. She raised 2 wonderful boys. And although Patty was reluctant to appear on this podcast, I think she did a terrific job. So join me in welcoming the best player in the McGraw family, Patty Coatney. Okay, Better Than I Found It listeners, welcome my twin sister, Patty Coatney, to the podcast today. Patty has been the best player in our family for about 50 years. So, Patty, it's great to have you on the podcast today.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
You bet. And it should be noted that it took me about 1.5 years to get you to agree to this. You weren't overly excited about it, but I thought you'd be a very interesting guest to have on here. For one, you truly were the most accomplished player in our family as far as the golfers, and we had my dad, my brother Tim, me, your husband Chuck. So we had a lot of really, really good players in our family, but you've done a lot in the game, so I think it's worthy. I think you're definitely worthy of being on this podcast.
Well, that's sweet of you to say. I think I just grew up in a time where I got lucky, and I can't imagine playing nowadays with what these kids are shooting nowadays. Crazy.
Yeah, the game has changed a lot, but you said you were lucky. You kind of grew up in a good time because Title IX kind of came about, the Public Law 94-142 came about when you were in junior high.
Right.
We didn't even have a junior high girls golf team for you to play on, so and then you didn't really have a high school girls golf team to play. I think Sarah Hilliard and Sarah Northcutt were the only two.
Yep, that was us.
They joined you later.
Right.
Our sophomore, you didn't have that. So you were fortunate to grow up in a time where opportunity was getting ready to explode.
Right.
And part of that was also the Oklahoma State women's golf team starting a program. So, but we'll get to all that in just a second. But I do want to say thanks for being on here today. I think you've probably listened to every podcast. You may be the most loyal podcast listener.
I'm a fan.
But also reluctant to come on here, so it's good that we're finally here. You know, you and I grew up one of 7 children. We're the babies, the twins, the babies. It was an interesting dynamic growing up in a house with 7 kids in 2 rooms.
Yeah.
So what are your memories of that? I know what mine are.
Well, just trying to find a spot to go to sleep, basically. It's like, totally. Everybody had the spots out, and you were just trying to. And the other thing was we just fought for food. Mm-hmm. We were fighting for food, and I was a pretty good fighter. You were a good fighter. You kept me on a diet I didn't want to be on because you would get to the food way quicker than I would.
Well, that's one thing people say. They always say, how did you learn to eat so fast? How did I do that? Or I said, I had 5 sisters, and we were all at the breakfast, lunch, and dinner tables at the same time. Yeah. And I figured at least 1 or 2 of these girls is always going to be on a diet, right? So if I'll eat my food as fast as I can, the potential that I might get something off another plate was there. But, we're making sort of light of this. But the truth is, you kind of went around a little bit hungry most of the time.
You kind of did. And when Dad would make the huge pot of chili or whatever, you were just like so excited because you're like, okay, we kind of get to eat tonight. This is good. It was 7 kids being a golf pro. That's a lot of mouths to feed.
Yeah, it was not very easy. But I will tell you this, we're not meaning this to be as a hardship. It was just the life we had, and that's all we knew. We didn't know anything else. And, that was the one thing our dad did was he got every kid started in the game at 5.
Oh, yeah.
At age 5.
Right.
And you took to it right away. Now, I don't know if you took to it in a way where you thought you were going to go out and hit 300 balls a day or anything, but you loved the game early on.
Well, I think I just liked getting away from the house and going out somewhere. All my friends, I had friends out there, and you got to do other stuff. You got to go to the pool. I was a little more social than you were. You were work and practice. When you got to work, you practiced first, and then you went and worked. You were very disciplined.
Well, I was, but that was in my second golf life. The first golf life when Dad got me started at 5, I hated it.
I know.
I could not stand the game. I made excuses, pretended I was sick every week, trying to get out of having to go to the golf course. Didn't
so
want to be
sad.
a part of it. Yeah. And there you and Tim were just loving golf as much as you could, and I hated it. And I think my dad did something, you didn't witness it, but it happened. Tim and I were living in the basement at the time because we finally wanted away from the sisters, and Dad would come and wake us up every week on a Friday to go out for the junior golf. And that whole summer I just kept on faking an illness.
Right.
And finally on the last week, it was the first week in August, he said, guys, you ready to go to the golf course? And I faked sick again, and he turned around and he said, Michael, I'm never going to make you play golf. And I said, you're not? And he goes, nope, I'm never going to do it. And that relief right there,
wow.
I didn't have to go back out to the golf course. It was 4 more years before I went back out to the golf course.
Wow,
I
had not heard that story. That's what a neat thing for Dad to do. I mean, or freed you up to look what you're doing with golf now.
Yeah, I've always done something with golf, but not because my dad pressured me into it. And I've seen a lot of junior golfers whose fortunes in the game kind of turn the wrong way because they're forced to play. And Dad didn't make me play. And when I came to the game, I came to the game on my own terms, loved every minute of it. I still love it today. I love coaching as much as I've ever loved it. But so I was the only kid in the family who didn't start at 5, started at 9.
You were 9, yeah.
Yeah, and you started when you're 5, but like you said, you went out to the pool. You did all kinds of things that kids would do.
Right.
And I do remember we didn't have a junior high golf team, so you were the first female to ever play on a junior high golf team in Ponca City, Oklahoma, East Junior High.
Yep.
Do you remember those early 9-hole matches against kids from other schools?
I don't, but I have a lot of guys come up and tell me about them. Like, you know what? You beat me back then. I'm like, I'm sorry. I didn't know what I was doing.
There was a great car dealer in Oklahoma City named Steve Huderberg.
Oh, yeah.
And you beat Steve in a 9-hole match or something in a junior tournament, junior invitational in Oklahoma City, I think it was.
Right.
And he never forgave you or never forgot it. But the truth is, you had to play against boys in junior high matches, and some would say that's not fair, but it was the only place you got to compete.
It shaped who I was in golf. I mean, it made me better. I always played people that were better than me, and nowadays, if my kids would have been interested in golf, that's what I would suggest is just play people that are better than you, and it made me such a better player than I would have been if I hadn't done that.
For sure. And since there weren't any other girls to compete against at the time, there weren't any other junior girls playing golf at the time, you had to play against boys that were better than you. Another thing you did that I think made you a great player. Now, you were really good at match play. I mean, that was kind of your specialty. But there was something you did at home that I've tried to encourage my guys to do. And I've never talked to you about this. You never failed to finish a hole. So if you start a hole, you always put it out. Always. You didn't pick up your ball and move on to the next hole. In match play, you get to do that.
Right.
You win the hole, they concede the hole.
Right.
But all you knew was you start on a tee box and you finish where the flag is. Yep. And you never failed to play. Do you remember that?
I remember always having par be my opponent. So I would always think I needed to finish out the hole. And back in the day when we first started, bogey was a par. Bogey was a par, but when I got better, it changed.
Well, sure. I'm just going to say that I've used it as an example through the years, and the only player I ever saw do it that I coached in college was Ricky Fowler. Ooh. I mean, he would look for his ball at Karsten Creek for 15 minutes. He didn't care how long it took. He wasn't going to lose a ball because he was going to finish every hole.
Wow.
And I know he probably hasn't done that as a professional, in practice rounds. But I always thought that was so interesting how you would do that because you were trying your best on every golf shot, period. That's all you knew. You didn't know anything else. Now, you weren't going to hit balls for 8 hours a day. You weren't going to commit yourself that fully to the game because you liked other things. You did. But I will say, I never saw a person who finished out every hole they started.
What's your opinion? Because I was a player. I did not like. Yep. I didn't like pounding balls. What's your opinion as a golf coach in that?
My opinion, if I was going to have a kid err, I would err on the side of just going out and playing and learning the game on the golf course rather than hitting thousands. And people would say, "But wasn't your hero Ben Hogan?" Yeah, it was.
Right.
There's no doubt about it. But I also had Jack Nicklaus as a hero, and Jack was more about being out on the golf course. Right. I personally think the driving range there is a place for block practice.
Right.
There's a place for working on technique. But once you kind of feel that, you've got to go out and trust it out on the golf course. And so because you played out every hole to its completion, and because you did most of your learning out on the golf course, you kind of became a golfer, not a practicer. Would you agree with that?
I totally agree with that. I mean, it's just the old adage, dig it out of the dirt. I think that's the only way to learn is to go out there. And, back when we were playing, the ball was, we were hitting these big hooks. The ball wasn't staying in the fairway. So we had to create some golf. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was a better place for me. But
well, and if you think about it, there's no really other sport where you just spend all your time practicing. You actually play it. Like in basketball, we do practice and we work on technique in basketball, but you have to go scrimmage where you're actually playing the game of basketball. Or
right.
Name a sport. It's like you don't just stand there and train all day long and
right.
nothing but training.
Right.
So, but everybody out there, don't get the idea that I think that I have something against hitting a lot of golf balls. That's right. Okay too. Right. I do think a lot of our players, my best player right now, Johnny Kiefer, had spent the first 2.5 years of his college career basically hitting golf balls. He's a great player. He still is.
I love him.
But Johnny has come to the conclusion that I will train my golf swing, but once I've done it, I've got to go play the game.
Yeah.
So
that's probably why he's been so successful this last 2 years.
Yeah, he's definitely coming on strong. So, and we play the game. It's enjoyable to play, and you did a great job of that. But you came to the game a lot earlier than I did. And you didn't have the same amount of opportunity as boys had. There weren't as many junior golf tournaments, any of that. But you took advantage of every opportunity you had. When you got to high school, we didn't have a girls' high school golf team our sophomore year, so you played in the boys' team. Unfortunately, they wouldn't let you play at regionals or state.
Right.
And we hosted the state championship at Ponca City Country Club, where our dad was the pro.
Right.
But you didn't get to play there. And the next year, they started the girls' state high school tournament up again,
mm-hmm. Yep.
Lincoln Park East.
Lincoln Park.
Do you remember
Coach Orr? Oh yeah, I remember. He was like, that was my. Well, I say I remember it. You probably remember it better than I do. But like, I had a pretty big lead, and we're going into 15, and it was you got water in front of the green, and I don't know how many I dumped in there, but I saw Coach behind the green. I thought, oh, what is he thinking? I ended up winning it, but it wasn't quite near as big of a lead.
Yeah, you did win that state high school. You also won a couple of state juniors. You were becoming, and you got into the women's state amateur at a young age. I think you were 13 or 14 the first time you played in that. So it was right at the time that I thought, the Title IX kind of came along, and you could see opportunities being created for women's golf. And I just think it was great. I think right now today we're seeing women's golf is just incredible, the amount of talent and competition they have. But I remember very, very well the 1977 Oklahoma State Women's Amateur. It was your first time you ever won the Oklahoma State Amateur, but it was at our home golf course, the Ponca City Country Club. You played. You had a caddy, good friend of mine, Mike Diamond, really good friend. I'm going to see Mike tonight, in fact.
Oh, fun.
But he caddied for you that weekend. You played Debbie Mitchell, a really good player, in the final, and you won 2-1, as I recall. Yep. I've still got your putter, by the way, that you won.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I do.
You're the only one who has anything, a trophy, or if you have it.
I got it all. But talk about your memories of that week, because you were only 17, and you had not yet, obviously, hadn't signed a letter of intent to go to Oklahoma State or any of that. So.
I was so raw. And, it was like, and it's funny because, people like, well, how did Ian recruit you and all that type of stuff. And I'm thinking, well, I was in love with Chuck. Mm-hmm. So I was like, Stillwater's 40 miles away, and just ask me to come play for you, okay? So that's kind of how I was not going to tell her no. She just, anyway, I ended up... I love her. I have a relationship with her till this day, and she's amazing. But I'd like to say it was because I had other schools looking at me. No, it was just like, gonna marry Chuck. There I go.
Well, it was only 40 miles away.
Yeah.
We had Laban Harris used to be in the men's golf team up to the Ponca City Country Club. Mike Holder did the same thing. So it was like OSU was probably a pretty easy fit. But also, they had just started a golf program, and I believe Patty Livingston was the first female golfer at Oklahoma State. And I think she went to the national championship in Hawaii. Hawaii, of all places.
Okay, funny story.
Yeah.
So Ann, that was her, first to take, a player. And so she said her and Suzanne Carpenter take her to the golf course, and get her clubs out and say, okay, have a good day. And then we went off shopping or something.
Yeah, of course they did. That's the way coaches did it those days.
Yeah, exactly. So that was how it kind of all started. And then, I'm thinking Hawaii. And then the next year, it's right at my home course. Yeah. I'm like, dang it.
Well, your freshman year, they hosted the AIAW National Championship at Stillwater Country Club. And you played the national championship. And in that time, they had 2 national championships. Right. The NCAA had just started one, and the AIAW, but you played at Stillwater Country Club.
Yep.
A lot of great players played there, as I recall. Like Julie Inkster was one of them, and there were a lot of really good players.
And do you know what I shot?
No.
I mean, what's the score that you really never want to shoot in golf? I think I shot 4 80s.
Just right at 80,
0, 80, 80 or something like that.
Well, that's not very good golf.
That wasn't very good golf.
I do remember calling you, I don't know, at some point during my freshman or sophomore year, and asking, how was it going? And you said, we just went out to California last week and played Pebble Beach. That was cool. Played another course. I don't really remember what it was called. And I said, well, was it this? Was it that? Was it this? No, that's not it. That's not it. And finally I said, well, it wasn't Cypress Point. And you go, yeah, that was it, Cypress Point. I got so mad. I'm playing Lincoln Park and Kicking Bird and Southwestern Weatherford Memorial Golf Course in Weatherford, Oklahoma, and you played Cypress Point. Just for fun.
We were so spoiled. Times we were spoiled, but we were more worried about where we were going to go eat that night.
Of course.
Like, how long do we have to be on this golf course, Coach? Come on, let's go. It's like, where are we going to eat tonight?
Well, it was early female golf, so it was like that. It probably wasn't all that well organized at the time and that type of thing.
Right.
But you did have a great teammate. You had a lot of good teammates. Alicia Ogren was a great teammate. You had tons of good teammates. But Val Skinner turned out to win 7 times on the LPGA Tour. She was an amazing player. Wonderful player. She was a teammate. Talk about what made her special.
She was the first girl I'd ever played with that hit it like a guy. And that was just like, she taught me a lot because I'm like, okay, I don't know. She just was very confident and she hit the ball high. I'd never seen that before. When I was hitting, it was
low
hooks. So it was the first time I ever saw a girl hit a ball like that. And I'm like, wow, okay, that's impressive, And so it was funny. I was just at a golf tournament, the 4-state this summer, and I was watching. I had finished my match, and so I went out to watch this other match, and there was this girl, and I was like, okay, I don't even know where that comes from. She hit it. She was just, very fit. Young little girl, and she was hitting it out there about 300 yards and in the air. I'm like, wow, okay, so golf is a whole different breed.
Well, I mean, but it should be. I mean, more athletes are taking up the game. There's better training, there's a lot of things that are better. Equipment's better. So they should be, but Val hit it like that way before there was any kind of equipment, and it was pretty obvious to anybody that was looking closely. She was going to play the LPGA Tour. And she won 7 times out there. What a player.
Exactly.
And but we mentioned Ann Pitts, your coach, a minute ago. She was just put in the Oklahoma State University Hall of Honor a week or so ago.
Yeah, very deserving. Pursuing OSU, and winning. She did so much for women's sports. And I didn't realize that she did a lot for Golf Stat. Did you realize that? I did not know that. Yeah. It was always funny because back when we were playing, she always liked us to keep stats and stuff like that. And anyway, so she did a lot for women's golf.
And she was the first coach at Oklahoma State. So it was, and obviously you'll have great memories of that time because it was so new, so raw, so fun. So it was just... I mean, I'm sure everybody was just loving the fact you got the opportunity.
Oh, and probably, I'm going to say 20 years later, I had a reoccurring dream that I got to go back and play college golf for 1 week because that's how special it was. That's how easy we had it and what a great time of life. I hope these kids are doing the same thing.
I think they understand, but I'm not positive. Sometimes I
coached a long time.
One of the things that we try every year to get through to guys is one of the great human qualities is being grateful.
Right.
That's an incredible human quality. Right. And entitlement is one of the ugliest human qualities. So it's like, but both of those are it's very apparent. Entitlement can happen really quickly.
Right.
And gratitude, you've got to work on a lot. You've got to make sure they understand.
I love that.
Something you did that not every female college golfer does is you got married during college. So at the end of your freshman year, you and Chuck got married.
Right.
And so it was literally right before that national championship at Stillwater Country Club, like 3 weeks before. What was it like being a student athlete, being married? Because that's different than being single.
It's funny. Chuck did a lot of papers for me.
You shouldn't say that.
Well,
don't say that.
I'm 63. What are they going to do to me?
They're not going to do anything now.
But
can we just say he helped? He was a tutor for you?
He was my tutor.
Okay, good.
Exactly. My babysitter, my tutor.
Yeah.
But it was different because people, nobody, I don't even know if it happens nowadays, does it? I don't.
Yeah, it happens occasionally. I've coached, I think, 2 guys that were married during their college, but it's not normal.
Right,
it's not
right. Well, and he happened to be the assistant golf pro at the country club at Stillwater, so it was very great for me because he just took good care of me when I was off the golf course, and personally, it worked out well for me. I don't know if it would for everybody, but it was good. It was good for me to go. It was funny because Ann Pitts, she was like, we had 2 nationals that year, and you know how stressful it is getting married, and she's like, Patty, just set a date and go get married so you can focus on your game. I'm like, okay.
She was coaching there.
She was coaching. Exactly.
She was. So in your college career, you actually guys had a great finish in 1982, your senior year. You all finished 3rd at the NCAA championship. Right. That has to be a great memory for sure.
I mean, yeah, right. It was funny that was the first and only tournament that I went from regular putting to
cross-handed, left-hand low.
In the middle of the tournament, and it made a huge difference.
It worked.
It worked. I was like, okay, but.
Your 4 years at Oklahoma State are the same 4 years that Linda Livingstone, Baylor's president right now, played basketball. You didn't know that.
Really?
Yeah. So when she got hired at Baylor, I actually called her secretary and asked for a meeting. And she and I sat down in her office. And she said, it was great to meet our golf coach, Coach McGraw. How are you doing? I said, well, I just want you to know you were an athlete at Oklahoma State the same 4 years that my twin sister was there. So she was playing basketball, and her husband, Brad, who's the first gent at Baylor. He played basketball at Oklahoma State during the same time. Yeah,
that is awesome.
So, interestingly enough, you all were there at the same time. But we talked about your first state amateur championship in 1977. Right. You won in 4 decades. So you won in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, and the 2000s. You won 9 times Oklahoma State Women's Amateur Championship. That got you in the Women's Oklahoma Golf Hall of Fame, the Oklahoma Golf Hall of Fame. I mean, I'm pretty impressed to have my twin sister be a Hall of Famer.
It was funny because I remember you telling a reporter that she'd run in 4 decades, and I just thought to myself, I thought, he just told everybody I'm older than dirt. I'm just old.
You were only 41 when you won that, that 9th one.
Well, true. And the funny thing is the reason why that doesn't happen nowadays is because kids go pro, and I just happened to always. I mean, I tried to go get my tour card a couple times, but I think I wanted to be a mama, and so I stayed amateur a long time. So.
Well, you did play in as a professional. You played in the Women's U.S. Open at Cedar Ridge in Tulsa. So I have a very, very distinct memory of that week. So I'm going to tell that story before you tell any memories you had.
Okay.
Well, let me go ahead and give mine first.
Okay.
So you've played number 1, you've played number 2, the 3rd hole. 2's a pretty good par 3.
Right.
3's a dogleg left, really tight, down the hill, over a creek, elevated green. 3's got a lot going on, especially when the wind's blowing. Right. The wind was blowing out of the south that day, and you kind of tugged your drive a little bit and went down into the hazard. Not in the water, though.
Right.
So I'm on the right side of the fairway, and I'm watching you, and your husband Chuck is caddying for you in the tournament. And I'm watching you down there, and Chuck's trying to get a yardage. And next thing I know is you're taking these practice swings. And I just wanted to leap across the fairway and say, Patty, no! And Chuck turns around, and you're taking the practice swing, and he said, sweetheart, we've got a 2-shot penalty here.
No, actually, he never said that.
Oh, he didn't?
He wasn't close enough. I saw the USGA official running over, and I'm sitting there going, oh, no, he's going to ask me how many times I swung in here. Yeah. And I don't know.
Well, I didn't know what was being said. I just was 50 yards away in the right rough thinking, oh my gosh, she just got penalized.
Being fair to me, that hazard looked like just a nice little meadow
falling down. There was a red line painted up above.
And I had some nerves. I had some nerves about the
You
third
were
hole.
a little nervous. But so talk about a couple of LPGA stars. You played with one and you tried to play with another. Tell me about those two stories.
Just being a young kid, I didn't know I had to make a tee time for practice round, so I went into the pro shop and they said, well, everybody's kind of booked up, but Jan Stevenson, which at that time she was winning everything she looked at, is in the locker room. You might go in there and see if you can, hook up with her. So I go in there and I'm about to throw up. I'm so nervous to ask her this. And I was like, Mrs. Stevenson, they said that you had just won some. You care if I play with you? And she just, not in a mean way or anything, but she just looked at me and she just said, I like to play by myself. And so I was like, okay. When I get the foot out of my gut, I will move on. But
she did win that week.
But she did win that week. And so I went out and just kind of stood by the practice tee. And then so finally there was one group that they could let me in, and it was Jane Blaylock, who back then was winning a lot of stuff too.
Yeah, Jane was a top 20 player for sure at that time.
Definitely. And then I remember, I don't know, I think Pat Bradley, she was winning everything at that time. I remember it was just so weird. I was on a tee, Pat Bradley's there, all these, I'm playing with Jane Blaylock. I'm like, okay, what in the world is happening? This little kid from Podunk.
You were only 23 years old,
right?
But
it was fun.
You did turn pro. You didn't play professional golf very long, and then you applied to get your amateur status back. And I think you came back in '86 and won the state amateur at Shangri-La.
Oh,
Shangri-La is where you won that. You beat Sheila Luganville, who became Susie.
Shields. I mean, Sheila
Dills.
Dills. Yeah.
But anyway, you won that the first time back, and then you ended up winning it 4 or 5 more times. Yeah. But I think you and your husband Chuck are probably one of the very few husband-wife combinations that have both played in the U.S. Open. There have been some, but there's not that many.
Right.
And I do remember Chuck playing in that U.S. Open. I caddied for David Strawn, who was a really good amateur from North Carolina, and Chuck played his practice round with Sam Snead and won $20 off Mr. Snead, who never paid him. And Chuck told you, what did he tell you? That?
Well, he just said that I would never have cashed it. Yeah. I would have framed it. But who was his other Archer? Was it Archer?
George Archer.
George Archer.
And interestingly enough, so George Archer was in that same group.
Right.
George was the player Chuck had caddied for in the 1970 PGA. Yeah. So George was the 1969 Masters champion. The very next year, Chuck was a young high school kid, and he got over there and he got on the bag with George Archer, the defending Masters champion.
That's a good story. Yeah.
No. But anyway, Sam Snead didn't pay him. So
he did not
maybe one day in heaven, Chuck can get that.
Sam.
Come on, Sam, pay up.
That's funny.
So anyway, you played in the U.S. Open, got your amateur status back, won the state amateur several more times. But as you had a family, as I recall, you were winning those state amateurs. Literally, you take the clubs out about May 15th and just practice for a month, go play in the state amateur, and kind of be done with amateur golf for this summer.
It's funny. I kind of played golf a lot of that way in my life because I just have always had other interests. And so when I knew I was going to go compete, I was very competitive. Like I always told Chuck, it could have been ping pong. I just love to compete. So... yes. So when I was raising my kids, that was way more important than hitting a golf ball. So yeah, you're right. I would get it out about a month ahead of time and then just get on the range like I didn't want to be on the range and then get my game in shape to go play.
Yeah, it was funny. I guess you said you love competing. You did. But you only got to do it once a year, basically, in those days.
Right.
You might play in another event, the four-state.
I feel like I got to play maybe in a few of the boys. Was there like a 4-ball or something?
No,
okay,
that was in junior golf.
Okay,
but as an amateur, you pretty much just played. And by the way, listeners out there, I know her career as well as she knows her own.
Way better than I
I've got the dates down. She doesn't have all those. But I will say this. It showed her competitiveness because she got more done in a month than most people would get done in a year because you had to get ready to compete.
Right.
And then once you got in competition, the competitive juices started flowing. You just couldn't wait. And I think I watched in 77 at the Ponca City Country Club. I didn't watch in 79 or 80. I watched in 81 at Tulsa Country Club when you beat your very dear friend Janice Burba and your college team.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And she became Janice Gibson when she got married and played the LPGA Tour for 15 years.
She retired from the LPGA.
Yeah, I mean, she was a great player. You beat her 13-12. You didn't have a bogey at Tulsa Country Club in a 36-hole match.
Yeah, the out-of-body experience. I don't know where that came from, but it was fun. But I felt it, and also, though, I felt bad, which you can't let yourself go down that road. So I just had to go back in my little bubble and say, okay, Janice and I will talk after. We'll
be buddies afterwards. You also beat Janet Groney in the state championship about 8-7 one year.
Another good friend.
She was a Tulsa policewoman. I mean, she was a great competitor. If you want to look at that, so you had to play against really good friends often. Because we had so little to play in, and that was a tough thing. But you kind of, everybody always said, "Oh, how do you do that?" And I'm just like, I just told myself, go in that bubble, and then 3 or 4 hours later, let's come out and eat lunch. So one year, I remember when you came back, you hadn't competed in a long time because it was at Shangri-La, and Chuck was going to be your caddy that week. And I remember he did something that I had never seen before. I think people have done it since, but he had, the night before the final round, he had put on your driver, he had taped on the bottom of your driver, fairways and greens.
Yeah.
And just little notes to you.
He was a good caddy.
Yeah, he was a great caddy. He did a great job of keeping you calm.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, Chuck's downfall as a player was his inability to control his emotions. Right. Chuck was an amazing golfer.
Yeah.
I mean, he was so talented, but
very competitive guy.
But he was the least emotional caddy you've ever seen in your life. He was very businesslike. He calmed the player. Oh, he was amazing.
He was amazing. I have a funny story. So one of the tour schools I went to, he went down and caddy for me, and I had gotten the first 9. I don't know. I played really bad, and so I was in a bad way, and he was just like. So when I came out of the bathroom, he's like kind of getting in my face and doing something, trying to put light some fire under me, and I just started bawling my head off and said, "Don't do that. That doesn't work for me." It's just he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I was just trying to do something."
But I never saw that. Yeah. All I ever saw was how calm he was for you and a calming influence.
Always, except for that one moment. Yeah.
Yeah, he always made it so you felt more confident and you had higher self-belief, which always made me think if Chuck ever wanted to be a coach, he might, because I saw him do that with you, and because he knew his downfall was emotionalism, I thought Chuck would have made a great coach.
Yeah.
He was a great player. He had a good golf IQ, and then he understood the value of staying calm.
Yeah, no, and isn't that interesting? Like you say, he used to have, but he was a great teacher. I mean, like that's the one reason we moved to Stillwater, because Kicking Bird opened. He had to give his lessons off the clock, and so he couldn't tell people no. And so I thought, they're putting lights on these. You're never gonna you're gonna be out there till 1 a.m. giving golf lessons. So that's kind of why we moved on to Stillwater.
Yeah, but speaking of that, you moved to Stillwater. You said you had other interests. Well, one of those other interests actually became coaching. Yep. So when I was the assistant coach at Oklahoma State, it was 2003. We were hosting the national championship at Karsten Creek, probably the toughest a national championship course has ever played. They did an interview of you and me for the Tulsa World newspaper, but it was because you had just been hired as the new first ever coach for Central Oklahoma Division II school where I played.
Right.
And I thought it was ironic. I was coaching at the school where you played, and now you were starting the program at the school where I played.
Yeah.
Tell me how difficult it was to start a program from scratch.
Well, first, so I didn't know it. I didn't know anything about coaching, and so Skip Wagner, he said, Patty, would you?
He's the athletic director.
Yeah, he was the athletic director at the time, and he said, we with Title IX, they needed to add another ladies sports, and he said, would you think about starting a golf team? And at the time, it was going to be really good for me. My kids were, self-sufficient, and it was time for me to find something to do. And so I said, oh, sure. He said, well, it'll just be part-time, no big deal. Mm-hmm. Well, it is not part-time. Nope. And Dad he didn't build us to do things part-time. So it was funny because Skip, he was he was so good with me and stuff. And finally, after we had a really good first season. I had really beat the bush and got some people, and And finally, I said, "Hey, Skip, I hate to say this, but I can't do this part time. You're gonna have to do something here.
You have to pay me.
You're gonna have to pay me." And he did. So that was fun. But yeah, it was. I raised boys, so it was interesting to have girls.
You coached 4 full seasons.
I think 4 full seasons. Yeah.
So you were a female golfer, and
right.
now you're coaching them. I coached them as an assistant coach for a few years, but that 1 year I coached it, it's a different animal. It's not the same.
It's not the same. It is not the same. Speaking of entitlement, the sandwiches on an airplane and
on a Learjet. Yeah.
Learjet, yeah.
No, I think it was really cool how you built a program from scratch. I did that at Eben North High School, but it was also with people I knew already. All these kids had been in my junior golf program. A few of them had played for me at Eben Memorial, and the district had them going to Eben North. So it's like I didn't build it from ground up. I knew those kids already.
Well, you were my first person I went to. You were my mentor, and you gave me such great advice. And, I was just so raw that I didn't realize what I was doing. So that was a blessing, actually. And then, and you just, good Lord, getting words of wisdom from you all the years you've done it. That was amazing, and it was great to have you as my mentor.
Well, that helped a little, I know, but still, you had a lot of things you learned as a coach. You learned by making the mistake, and you made a few, I know.
Yeah.
But I think you were enjoying it. But when you and Chuck moved to Stillwater, that obviously had to come to an end. Right. Chuck went from Kicking Bird to Stillwater Country Club as the head golf professional. Right. And I'm going to say this in front of everybody right here: the transformation of that country club from the day Chuck got there to the day he left was very impactit was amazing. It was like you couldn't recognize the place.
Right. It's a great, you lived there for how many years? It's amazing. That was one of the qualities you were saying with Chuck. He ended up towards the end of Stillwater, becoming the general manager also. Right. And you talk about patience. I mean, that job, you have to have an incredible amount of patience, and I just was always impressed with that. So
yeah. Did you end up working in the shop? I don't think you did much.
I did the first 7 years, and I'm more creative and the 9 to 5, and finally after, we had really got, the new clubhouse was open, that type of thing. I said, honey, I gotta go do something. I gotta do something else. And he's like, I know you do. So I ended up opening up my own antique shop and went that direction.
Yeah. Do you still dabble in antiques?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I still do.
Still primitive antiques?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, Pottery Barn Mike.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I mean, Pam and I, we have a house full of primitives, and probably 60% of them or 70% of them are the ones you helped us find.
You have an amazing collection.
It's a good collection of primitive antiques. And Pam knows that I'm a primitive antique. So.
Yeah, that's right.
I match very well. But you've done something else that I wish I had done. I have not done, and I apologize to my players for this. I basically quit the game. I played once this summer, practiced putting.
I watched you, and it was good.
Yeah, I mean, my game is better than it should be for the amount I play, but I don't play much. You play a lot right now. Talk about how it's been getting back to the game.
It was funny because when Chuck retired, this is not in a bad way, but he was home 24/7, which was so new. Yep. And so we lived right by the golf course, could drive a golf cart over. So that was kind of my, okay, I think maybe I'll go to the golf course. So I started playing some and forget how much I enjoyed it. When you're out of it for so long, you think, oh, this was fun, and just making friends. That golf, it's all about relationships you make. And anyway, so yeah, it's fun getting back into it. For sure.
Well, if you said you had an average score or handicap, what would that be right now? And what tees are you playing?
Well, I'm playing the short tees, and it's a +1. I think it's the last.
So you're going to shoot 70 from the front tees?
Yeah, anywhere from 68 to 70.
Okay, so you're playing good.
Yeah, not bad.
I've never understood why people let their ego get the best of them, because you're not going to be what you were at 25. You're just not. It's never going to be like that again. Mm-hmm. But so you move up to some tees where you can still shoot under par,
right,
which is great. And it reminds me when our dad was 80. So this was probably about 6 months before he passed away. I called him up and I said, Dad, how you doing? Are you playing any golf? He says, I'm playing every week, 3 days a week. I said, well, great. How you playing? He says, I have no idea. And
what?
I said, okay. I said, how are you playing? He said, I'm playing great. I said, what are you shooting? He said, I have no idea. So what he said was, I don't have any idea what I'm shooting. Right. I said, well, if you're playing great and you play 3 days a week, how can you not know what you're shooting? He says, well, I just drive the cart along until I see a shot that fits my eye, throw a ball down, and I hit that shot. He said, I'm only hitting shots that fit my eye now. And I thought, my gosh, it took him 65 years, but he's finally
figured that out.
You should only play shots that fit your eye. But, and it's funny because on my players on my team, when they say, oh, that shot just doesn't fit my eye, I get mad at them.
Right, yeah.
It's like the course's job is not to fit your eye. It's your job to fit the game you have to that golf course.
Right.
But I think Dad had it figured out. If you're 80, you just need to play shots that work for you.
Yeah, no doubt.
And he did.
I'm so glad I got to do that.
Yeah, that is great. I'm glad you're playing more. My guys keep on asking me if I'm going to play, and I just haven't done it. My new assistant coaches are like, gosh, Coach, you got to start practicing. So maybe I'll do it.
I mean, literally, I watched you play, and I'm like, okay, that golf swing mimics what you had 30, 40 years ago. It's unbelievable.
I should play. But anyway, so more on that later. We'll see. But one other great interest you have, I think that's pretty amazing, is your grandkids. So talk about that and how fulfilling that is.
Yeah, well, I mean, people used to tell me, oh, yeah, you're just going to love being a grandma, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, really? Okay.
Yeah, right.
And then it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's like they are, like we were just talking today. We watched them for a little bit because they had to do something. And this little newborn baby that's like 4 months old, I'm like, what is going through this kid's head? He is, the minute he's up, he is laughing at you and grinning. I'm like, Chuck's like, oh, he's just loving life, I guess, but it's the best thing that ever happened. Yeah, it's amazing.
Better than golf.
Better than golf.
Well, that's cool. Well, I'm happy for you on that, and thrilled that you and Chuck are enjoying retirement, and you've moved back to Oklahoma City, so you're down near the kids, grandkids, and your kids, which is great. And Kyle and Chris, two wonderful boys you all raised. Wonderful. They didn't become golfers, but that's okay too.
Kyle loves golf, and he's actually become a really good
he started playing?
Yeah,
good,
he hits a long ways, loves it. But Chris, he never really enjoyed it. But,
funny, Chris worked at a golf course and never played.
Fried a good burger.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, anyway, I'm happy for you on that. Thanks for coming to the podcast today. This has been great. So now the whole podcast world, everybody that listens realizes that I have a twin sister who plays better than I do. So there you go.
Well, and he's 10 minutes older, just saying.
Well said.
Thanks.
All right, well, have a great one, and tell Chuck I said hey.
I will, Mike. Thanks. Appreciate it.
You bet.